Well, happening now, state officials are searching for the person who shot and killed a black bear.
Yeah, so the bear was actually found on the side of the road in Burlington over the weekend. Pinpoint News Tracker showing the location here is right on Upson Road. Your reporter Anna Stansfield live outside of Deep headquarters in Hartford. So Anna, we know officials there are investigating here, and they want to remind everyone that there are some serious consequences if you kill a bear.
Yeah, absolutely. This weekend's incident sparked a lot of alarm for agencies across our state, and this morning their message is clear: hunting and killing bears in the state of Connecticut is illegal. This weekend in Burlington, investigators say they found a 200-pound black bear dumped on the side of the road, which isn't where they think he was killed. They say the bear was injured on his shoulder, an injury that looked like a gunshot wound. Now, investigators need to get to the bottom of what happened so they can find out if someone needs to be charged for the bear's death. Here in our state, the only time you can kill a bear is in self-defense or in defense of others, or if you have been given a permit from Deep to protect crops or livestock. You must, though, first prove you've tried other ways to protect your property. And immediately after, you're supposed to call Deep so they can investigate what you did. If they find the killing wasn't justified, you could be charged. Just last year, a Bethlehem man was arrested for allegedly shooting a bear that had walked into his garage and came within feet of his children. He says the bear did not back down after going outside and only meant to fire warning shots to scare the bear. He planned to complete an accelerated rehabilitation program, allowing him to clear the charges from his record. Now, investigators have taken the bear's body that was found in Burlington to try and find any more clues about what happened over the weekend. But this morning, as I said, they still have several questions. If you know anything about what may have happened, you're asked to call police. I'm reporter live in Hartford, Anna Stansfield, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.